Friends, we decided to treat you to a unique and amusing story. It is rooted in the distant American 18th century. The case is an extraordinary character who has a unique talent. A talent to do all sorts of weird things while making a lot of money and even a bit of dubious fame. It was as though he had a demon on one shoulder who suggested he try the dumbest things possible, and on the other shoulder, a whole bunch of reckless angels responsible for good luck. Angels who eventually gave up trying to offer good advice, accepted the inevitable dumbass decision, and said, hell with it, might as well help him out. Well, let's rip off the Band-Aid. We're talking about the original eccentric rich guy, Lord Timothy Dexter. Our guy was born in 1747 in Walden, Massachusetts. His family was not putting on the Ritz at all. Timothy Dexter didn't aspire after knowledge for some reason, and didn't give a flying fuck about school when he was 8. He decided he had too many things to do on the farm to get distracted by things like math and spelling, so our young Dexter, instead of reading smart books, enthusiastically cleaned up cow shit on the farm. At 14, he had a rush to the head and left the farm and moved to Charlestown. There he devoted himself to leathercraft, which didn't require any mental abilities. Put simply, he helped make gloves and other leather accessories as an apprentice. His boss paid Dexter's probation with a suit. Indeed, he gave Dexter a suit instead of money. The latter successfully sold it for $8 and somehow moved to the seaport town Newburyport. It was full of industrial life, and Dexter decided to try his hand there. Then, Dexter made his first lucky transaction, so to speak. He charmed a local widow who had some fortune and started a family. Although charmed and started may be overstating things a bit. So let's say he acquired, together with a widow and a house, 4 ready-made rugrats from the previous husband. And once he probably saw himself in the mirror, a little bit of money beat its tambourine in Dexter's head, and he thought, well, I have a family, a house, I'm a bigwig in the city. Why in the name of God have I not applied to some important public office? And here we go. Now this is where the stories from the category courage and stupidity begin. Dexter started to screw local authorities' brains about, fellows, you have such a person of natural gifts, standing idle in me. Give me something to manage, huh? I'm a smart guy. I can both clean shit up and sew gloves. And he annoyed the authorities in this way for a long time until they first gave him the finger, and then realized it was better to just agree with them than have him sit around in their offices all day. So they found him a position matching his qualifications. Well, not exactly found, they made it up. And Timothy Dexter became a reindeer herder, which was without a doubt an important and responsible task, especially if we take into account that the ass of the last deer flashed in the bushes of that region God knows how many years ago. But it didn't embarrass him at all. Dexter got himself a thick notepad in case deer did appear, and they needed to be recorded somewhere, and he started to gain importance. In general, he had no problem with self-esteem. Dexter's next conclusion went something like, well, I'm not the last person in the civil service in this city. Maybe I should take to business to earn a pile of money and make a fortune. Curiously enough, our lad delivered on his promises to himself. He wanted a pile of money, and there you go, in the truest sense of the word. It was 1775, and the War for Independence began in America. There were ordinary dollars, silver dollars, and continental dollars in the country as currency, while the latter was about to lose its value. For example, once it got to the point that they gave 150 continental dollars for one ordinary dollar. Well, our genius decided to stock up with the whole bundle. He spent almost all of his savings he had on the purchase of the continental dollar. Here's a pile of money for you. But it wasn't good for much except maybe to throw in the furnace. But the most important thing occurred later. At some time, the authorities decided to support the withdrawal of these devalued papers from circulation and raise the exchange rate. That is, a continental bought for 1 cent now cost about 10 cents. Maybe not exactly, but that's the point. As you and I understand, the eccentric Dexter, in the blink of an eye, changed his waste paper for normal money and multiplied his investments several times. Good luck or business acumen? Maybe we'll never know. Now, in case you think you have to be the smartest person in the world to grow rich and earn fame, we're going to destroy this assumption right now. Let's plow through Timothy Dexter's unique business projects, and I think you'll understand. But be careful, these are not guidelines for action. I mean, you could do what you want, but your mileage may vary. When our hero earned first good money on dollars he could seemingly wipe his ass with, envious characters appeared in his circle, burning with envy. Well, all these assholes started to suggest Dexter various business ideas from all sides, And what ideas? One was worse than the other, and of course our naive businessman accepted them all to the delight of his enviers. However, what came out of it brought those evildoers to hysterics. Once somebody threw an idea to trade bedwarmers in the West Indies, and Dexter's brains befuddled with success, and this is, for a moment, a tropical hot region in the Caribbean. That is, they needed bedwarmers like a submarine needs a screen door. Unfortunately, people didn't know about them at the time, and Timothy was as cool as a cucumber. Bedwarmers means bedwarmers. These guys clearly give good advice, and Dexter stuffed the ships with bedwarmers and sent them to the Caribbean. And somehow got excess profits by selling literally every one of them. Now you'd think the climate maybe changed there. People started to freeze their asses off and everybody wanted a bedwarmer. Well, not so much. It's just that these bedwarmers weren't quite what we imagined them to be. These were in fact big jars with very long handles used to heat the bed before going to sleep by putting coal into them. When the citizens of the West Indies saw these gizmos, they decided they could be successfully used in candy manufacturing. They had no large tubs to stir their molasses in, and then Timothy Dexter shows up, and now they do. Everything like he planned. Or something. He had his own doubtful initiatives too. For example, the invasion of stray cats hammered his city. First, folks wanted to kill them, but then they changed their minds. And here, Dexter came in with the offer to gather all the cats and send those to the Caribbean as well. Whether he foresaw it or not, he gathered all the poor furry things, and he and the landing party took them to the Caribbean, where he was recognized as a national hero. Turned out his cats solved the problem of rats and mice raging at the time. Respect from the residents was guaranteed, plus he was thanked with money because mice and rats caused heavy damage to warehouses and plantations. Ill-wishers, however, did not let up, and threw Timothy Dexter another brilliant idea. Hey, why not carry coal to Newcastle? And Newcastle, to make it clear, is a native land of coal, which means there were huge coal deposits. It's like being told to carry sand to the Sahara Desert. Now, most people would have told the guy with this idea to go to hell, but Dexter didn't think that way. Instead, he sent a coal ship to Newcastle. And by the time Dexter's coal arrived in Newcastle, a major miners' strike had broken out, and big fucking problems started with coal. And all of a sudden, a batch of ready-made coal has arrived. Everything was sold, and Dexter was doing just fine. Now, you might start to believe that Dexter foresaw the future, but no, not really. They were just stupid, terribly risky undertakings that somehow turned out to be successful in some inexplicable way. Then, Dexter suddenly decided he urgently needed to buy up all baleen and whale bones in the region. We don't yet know, he just wanted it. He stuffed warehouses with them, and then all of a sudden, corsets for men are in fashion, and they use baleen and whalebone. Demand was crazy. And there's another deal that seemed like rare shit was closed in Dexter's favor. Now, certainly it was not a talent that Dexter had. Timothy Dexter had a superpower. He would get into some shitty adventure and come away as the winner, and without particularly sweating over the calculations. After such success, and no matter how you slice it, it was success, Dexter bought himself a luxurious house, almost a castle in fact. In fact, he bought a whole army of statues of various heroes of America, and he installed all this stuff in his backyard. So this isn't all, though. Among these silent figures of the country, he set up a statue of himself and had the inscription, "I am the first in the East, the first in the West, the greatest philosopher in the Western world." He presented this exhibition as an outdoor museum and attracted a lot of visitors who were either truly interested in statues or just came to see what this kind of craziness can do to a person. Dexter was also a bit weird with his wife, sometimes to such an extent that he could easily tell someone that he was not married at all or just say that his wife had died. He also had 2 children of his own, Samuel, his son, and a daughter, Nancy. Dexter hoped that a true gentleman would grow from his son and that his daughter would marry a dignified man. Eventually, the son became a hopeless drunkard, and Nancy's husband began to beat her at the drop of the hat. In the end, she ran away from him and also got hooked on alcohol. Now, sometimes Timothy Dexter asked everyone to call him Lord Dexter, which, hey, why not if he wants it so badly? He had matching friends, too, a suspicious fortune teller who predicted his fate, a porn and fish dealer who became Dexter's court poet, and a small dog which was roaming on his heels. Soon, Timothy Dexter began himself to go hard with the alcohol, and his house turned into, well, pretty much a brothel. And as a result, Dexter's already addled mind was now dulled by alcohol, but it gave him an idea, to check whether many people would bid him a final farewell. So he put up his family and faked his own death, including a funeral, just to see what would happen. A huge amount of money was spent on the funeral, a chic mahogany coffin made, and a whole lot of people gathered for the show, about 3,000 people. And they say that in the midst of merriment, his wife didn't grieve over much. In his opinion, the deceased Timothy Dexter came to life and started to quarrel and fight with his wife in front of the stupefied crowd. Well, as you can imagine, with all this craziness going on in our hero's head, they finally needed a release. And in 1802, he did just that, publishing a 25-page edition of his memoirs. Really just an incoherent collection of thoughts about everything that came into his head, from politics to his wife. And considering that at the age of 8, Dexter had a farm instead of a school, there was no question of any spelling and punctuation in his book either. He called this terrible work a pickle for the knowing ones. And when he got criticized about illiteracy in the second edition, which imagine there was a second edition, he made a page where he simply typed commas and punctuation marks, what they call to put them by the reader himself if he doesn't like something. And even this trashy book became quite popular. In fact, it was reissued 8 times. Lady Luck, it seems, didn't want to let go of her favorite insane lad. Timothy Dexter actually died in 1806. They checked, and this time it was for real. According to one of the versions, he fairly divided all his money among his wife and kids and donated part to the poor. Later, a tavern was opened in his luxurious house. A part of famous statues were destroyed by the storm, and another were sold for cheap at auction. Actually, it may happen that next to utter ignorance and insanity, acumen might be found after all, which helped Timothy Dexter achieve success in many of his businesses. Who knows? Probably his fate is just an example of an unthinkable concourse of circumstances and inexplicable luck. Hey, we hope you like the story about this eccentric and lucky person. If we come across something interesting, we'll make sure we share it with you.